what is common between Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai and Shalini.
Google Vice President of Product Management, Sundar Pichai.
As you can see, the most important architectural requirement for this piece is to be able to integrate.
When the Airbnb CEO said that, they are doing away with the product management roles, they are kind of bubbling up designers to be as empowered as product people.
The entire tech industry is talking about being reimagined, reinvented, rethought. So when you look at from that canvas, it's not just product management. I think
it's a AI first company and all they have is tech people. They don't have any product managers.
we do development, core coding, we do testing, we do support. I think every profession is going to go through some reimagining. So it's not just product management.
You started from tech, then you moved into business analysis, then you moved into strategy, then you moved into product leadership, then you moved into executive leadership, and now today you are the site leader for Planview in the management leadership position. How did these transitions happen?
At every stage, when I knew I was not ready, skill follows the will. Whenever that came in, I kind of jumped into it.
So the question here is that, should I do an MBA, right? That's a very common question. So my question to you would be, do you have any suggestions? Should people kind of pursue MBA?
MBA or a degree.
Welcome to this episode of Product Talk with Malti, and I'm your host, Malti. I'm a product consultant and founder of SparkPod Consulting. Well, in this series of Product Talk with Malti, we talk a lot about product building, product management. Now, if you look at the product manager's career, you will see people coming from very diverse background, people from sales, customer success, design, tech. So that is why a product manager, you will find a variety of people coming with different skill set. Now, having done product management for a few years, could there be other careers that they can pursue? Are there adjacencies that they can look for? Are there transferable skills which is added onto their profile during their product management career, which helps them to grow into some of the other profiles? That is what we are going to talk about today. So the title is all about career growth as a product manager, both in as well as out. And who else can do better than this? I couldn't think of anybody else but my dear friend Shalini. Hi Shalini, welcome to this episode.
Wonderful to see you, Malti, again, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Well, Shalini and I go back to our time almost 5 years now when we started volunteering with NASSCOM product skills. Yes, in and out, and we both have persisted for a long time, and this has now blossomed into a great friendship that we share. All right, and Shalini, I mean, if I kind of just look back, you have kind of covered a whole, you started from tech, then you moved into business analysis, then you moved into strategy, then you moved into product leadership, then you moved into executive leadership, and now today you are the site leader for Planview in the management leadership position, right? So just, tell us that how did these transitions happen and what made you ready, or how did you get ready for that next big leap as, you moved from product management role to more broader roles?
Thank you for the question. So when I think about it and reflect, right, I realize a lot of it was not planned. So that itself for me is one of the secret sauces, which is, how ready was I at every stage when I knew I was not ready? And how do I continue to be ready and learn pretty much on the job? Was one part of it. But the second part of it is, I think, the mental readiness. Mm-hmm. Because I think skill follows the will, has been my experience. So you have the will, you keep it. You are one of the examples for it. So I think if I look back, that has been pretty much a pattern. Was it the naivety of the youth or just pure faith in the next steps? I was always the one who jumped in when there was any new opportunity that came in. And there were a lot of great people, mentors, sponsors for me, working behind my back, providing opportunities. I think I'm forever grateful for that. But whenever that came in, I kind of jumped into it. It was pretty much that journey. And every step has been huge learning, Malti. So I think if we can't keep up the curiosity and ability to learn, any of these moves is pretty much not possible.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think it's like, as you said, the skill follows the will. Okay, that's a new line that I kept, and very beautifully said. But would you think that there were some core transferable skills that you kind of acquired
Absolutely.
during this journey, which kind of helped you make that mental shift when you took up the new role, especially like especially today when you are heading the entire site that comes with plethora of additional things, right? You are not only responsible for the business P&L, you are responsible for employees, you are responsible for many more things as a site leader. So how do you think you kind of leverage those transferable skills and braced up for those new unknowns?
So let me just, if I reflect, right, very early on in my career, one of the things that fascinated me is getting closer to customer and getting closer to what impacts the overall business. I think whether I was an engineer or I was, doing an implementation, so I never had the resistance in me to say I will not do this or I will do this, as long as it got me closer to the business problem, got me closer to the customer. So I think that fascination has helped me. That's been one of the biggest transferable skills. Every role I have taken up, irrespective of what the so-called role remit was on the paper, I think that has been my anchor skill, right? And following that up, see, when you start looking everything with a customer lens or a business lens as a North Star, and when you start anchoring your entire team around it, you around it, it somewhere brings a lot of clarity, Malti. So irrespective of the role you take in an organization or industry, that helps you orient in a way that you're always solving for adding value to your customer, which I think is a very long-lasting way of building a career or building your proposition or building an organization, right? So that's been one of the skills I think that I have carried forward. Second, and I've continued to build up. I still learn on every single day. Like when I joined Planview, entirely different set of industries that I get to meet with, customers from automotive to pharma to life sciences, and it's fascinating. I think so that fascination and curiosity to learn, I think, has definitely kept me up. Irrespective of the gray hairs, I still feel young, and I think that's truly a transferable skill. And I don't know if it's a skill. It is definitely a trait. Skill that comes in along with it is, as you keep navigating through multiple sectors, roles, levels or layers, can you have one anchor for you, one foundation where you're strong at, and can you start connecting the dots? Can you start synthesizing and keep growing? I think that is a skill that comes along with it, because I think in this world especially, everybody can know everything, because at the fingertips you have every part of the information, right? And when you look at product managers, since we're talking of product management here, really one of the biggest traits for product managers is, how do you build certainty when you are filled with chaos and uncertainty? You're basically presented a whole host of information from every source possible, and you're asked to set direction. So I think, how do you synthesize, how do you create a point of view, and how do you keep moving ahead, and how do you course correct, essentially become those transferable skills, right? So I think for me, that's been one of my biggest boons that I've been able to continue to develop.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of beautifully articulated. I think as a product manager, to be able to, come up with that curiosity and anchoring, to be able to connect the dots and constantly pushing yourself, discovering those business part of it, the why you are doing. I mean, it takes me back to that typical Venn diagram that we look at it when the product management position, which is, between customer, business and tech/design that we speak about. I think it is important that as product managers, we are constantly pushing ourselves to develop those multi-dimensional assets over there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it just reminds me, Shalini, if I just put, what is common between Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai and Shalini, they all moved from, product managers to business leaders.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for putting me in those ranks. But I have seen some really great leaders and some of my own mentors who come from product management to drive multiple parts of the business. I truly believe that's a great path, a great stepping stone to truly driving businesses. Because at the heart of it, especially for product organizations, at the heart of the business is the product.
Yeah.
Everything else around is, I'm sorry, character actors, right? It's true product is the heart of the organization.
Right.
And if you have that product thinking within you, I think the doors are open for many roles all the way up. So you're right. I think many great leaders come from true product background.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but because it kind of, I would say, gets you seasoned in a variety of things, and you definitely every single day you have 100 bosses who are so demanding on you.
That's very true.
So that makes you as seasoned as you can, managing people, expectations, your stakeholders. So yeah, completely. Actually, on that note, Shalini, couple of things, right? And interestingly, today most of the questions that I have are all crowdsourced from the audience.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so I'm talking about real problems that people have asked me to ask you. So one question, and this is something because I also do a lot of product leadership coaching. You have been mentoring a lot of product managers. And somewhere, after this, I would say 5 to 10, 12 years of experience, people are kind of on those crossroads to say that what is that I can do now to accelerate myself on that business journey, to understand how a business functions. Before that, you are a techie, or at the most you are handling like one component, a module. So you're not really exposed to a larger how a business operates, right? And many of them don't come from a business background. They come from technology background. So the question here is that, should I do an MBA, right? That's a very common question. So my question to you would be, do you have any suggestions? Should people kind of pursue MBA, or are other strategies through which they could kind of accelerate it themselves to develop their acumen for business?
Very wide question. So let me just share a few thoughts and we can explore any of them which make sense. MBA or a degree, okay, it's a personal belief. While it does help, it's never mandatory. So at least a bunch of product managers that I've hired have not had an MBA degree. Having said that, does it help? Does it help thinking differently? Absolutely. So I would not put it as a mandatory. I would always say that it adds value, tremendous value, right? Now, if you leave that aside and organically, what else can you build? I'm probably going to focus on key traits rather than just courses and trainings, which we can touch upon. Key traits, what I have seen, because product management as a profession is a beautiful profession where you can truly have multiple homes, but you can reach the same destination. You can definitely come in from a technology background. You can come in from, arts and psychology background, because it's all about reading people, working with people, solving for people. You could come in from design, for sure. It's such a natural extension. You could come in from customer success, customer care kind of background. You could come in from a QA background, because they're again dealing with user problems. I'm also a big believer of bringing in product management from fairly younger talent, which means they might not have really jumped into a whole host of corporate careers, but you're starting on one PM career as probably one of the first or second option. The path is longer there, but that's also a possibility. Having said that, you mentioned something important, which is how do I develop a business-focused mindset? Right. I think it starts from, irrespective of the role that you are taking, every single role, you can think of business value. You're doing QA testing, you're creating scenarios, you're building scripts. Focus on what does the user need. Start from the user. I think it's actually very easy to say, but very hard for people, because we all as human beings love to be in our boxes, even though our aspirations is not to be in the box. But I say, okay, this is my input. If I'm a QA tester, is all the specs and what's coming in the stories, and I'm going to write my tests and I'm going to test, and my output is how many right, how many wrong, how many pass, how many fail. While that could be my activity box, how do I step out and say, how do I even validate what I'm doing? Is it useful for the user? So I think starts from there, Malti. At least that's what been my journey, even personally, has been is, can you put yourself in user shoes almost on every single point of view that you're building? So that's one. Second is, this is probably a little bit more unique to product management. While we do put users at the center, can you build everything that the user asks you for? Right? I think that is a skill of saying no and building an independent point of view, but validated with insights, I think is a very, very important skill, because there you're not just putting the user value, you're also putting what you call as a business value into picture. And that happens, that is not just an individual's journey, the ecosystem around, the team, the organization, all of that plays a role. But I think that is a switch, as a mindset switch, because when you're in development, you're expecting somebody to tell you these are the requirements, and then you're saying, okay, I will solve for the how. I will ask for the why, I will solve for the how. But somebody else is going to give me the what. Now, but when you're in technology, today, given the amount of advent of technology, how can you start really thinking about how does technology lead the business? How can technology add value to users? But also, how do I add value to business? So I think some of these dimensions start from just mindset switch, number one. Now, okay, are there courses, are there things, are there frameworks that can help you? Absolutely. I think one of the oldest and established frameworks like Pragmatic, I have been a user of it. I think it's highly comprehensive, so you may have to nuance it and customize it, but I think it really lays down the life cycle. So using frameworks, leveraging, there's so much of information around what does product management look like all across. We have some amazing folks like Shreyas and others who are really driving some amazing product thinking. So I think at least since when I joined my career and when I began as a product manager versus where we are today, the information and availability of what needs to happen is tremendous. You yourself are doing a lot of information, a lot of activity around it. So I think I would not be worried about where do I learn from. I think there's a lot of sources.
Yeah.
It probably comes down to what do I learn, and more than learning the skill set, if we are sitting in the hiring position, I'm sure you would do the same thing. You're not going to be hiring only for do I know how to groom a backlog or do I know how do I draw a roadmap, right? Because that is where, given the advent of technology, a lot of those skills would be automated, whether you like it or not.
True.
It's really the product thinking which will make the difference. So I would say from today, wherever you are, whichever seat you are in, whichever level you're in, start from thinking about user, start thinking about what does this mean as a business value to my organization.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot. In fact, in one of the things framework which I follow pretty much on the similar lines, just slightly worded, doesn't that start with the aspect with the solution that you're thinking about? Is it really desirable for your user? Mm-hmm. And then you come from a viability part of it. Is it really viable for my business, right?
Yeah.
So the viability follows desirability.
Very
and
true.
Then you have the feasibility aspect of which technology, how do you kind of build
Correct.
it. So start with the why, the what, and then come to the how.
Very true.
Right.
And I'll tell you an example, right? In Planview, one of our product managers, younger product manager, she comes from a digital marketing background. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
very different. No inkling of technology in her background, right?
Mm.
Today, she's one of a very, very successful product managers, very young in her career. So, and I'm fascinated with some of these because it's not about me saying what works or you saying. It's also lovely to hear and learn from the younger generation.
True.
The way I've seen her operate, right, she starts with the same basics, which is, let's say a user or the group product manager says, these are your roadmap goals for this year because this is what I want to hit as OKRs for this product. Then when you're dealing with your specific customers, you'll always have those anchor customers, beta customers, the loudest customers. And then you start driving as to what does that mean. She starts with that. She takes in a lot of active listening. And once active listening happens, comes back and collaborates with her technology counterparts and says, what is feasibility? Exactly what you mentioned. So you now know what is desirable. You're working on feasibility. The viability part is not easy for everybody and every layer.
Correct.
To start really driving.
Correct.
How do I even know what business values are,
Correct.
right? So I think that is where if an organization helps with some framework of an OKR, some level of strategy, you understand what the objectives are, connect back, continue to validate. It runs so smoothly, so beautifully. And how do you have continuous iterative checkpointing, validation? So I think some of these routines and controls help you anyway run that path. So what I've seen her develop is go through this, and now it's become a muscle memory. And now I see her evolving into the next level where she's driving back to customer and saying, why is this desirable for you? Is there a better way of doing this? Is this something which you're using to plug a gap in your own business process? So you see, there is an evolution that naturally comes in because the product thinking mindset is coming in.
Right.
And she is doing it not so that you can make your customers happy as not the only objective, but also driving towards a roadmap which is long lasting. So I think this is an example which you can clearly see that it's not just about frameworks and what you're learning as skills. You're actually applying and you're using and Agile brings up such lovely ceremonies that really helps you set on the path if you follow it with the intent and not just for the sake of routine. So
Not for the rituals, but
and this person comes not from technology background, and today she is one of the most respected product managers, still a younger product manager. Her product engineering team looks up to her as a leader. More senior people here on the engineering side, but look up to her as a leader. Just think about the gravitas that you can build in, and that is why they become some of the best candidates for growing up the ladder.
I agree. I mean, I think that way, I think though it is a harder role, harder job, product management, which I think a lot of people only realize after they start doing it, right? But it, as you said, it kind of just sets in the right kind of trait, skill set, gives you those opportunities. Now it is up to the individual if they grab it and they are able to demonstrate, like how this young lady is able to do that. But you're right, and that is one of the reasons that why we see a lot of product managers blooming into these executive leadership and management leadership positions. True. Right?
Persistence is key, and being ready for not only saying no but also told no. I think that takes some thick skin. If you have to put one skill set on the job description, is do you have thick skin?
Oh yeah. That's. I think that should go into my slides also.
I agree.
Yeah. So actually, that takes me to my next question here, Shalini. That in your journey or around you, like after people have spent some years building products, doing product management, what are some of the adjacent roles, or how have you seen? I mean, of course, there is that very traditional path you can take, within the same organization or through taking other roles. You kind of grow up the ladder very organically, GPM, then you become director or VP, whatever is, or then, have a CXO, CPO role. But what are some of the other path, if I have to say unconventional path, or what are some of the other exit paths that you have seen that people have taken in their growth?
Okay, sure. We talked of the entry paths into PM, now we're saying after PM, right?
Right.
You already described this path towards CPO. I think that's one of the most conventional paths.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at others, right, I've seen people grow into strategy as one of the layers. So but again, once you hit a certain, such as group product management, etc., then you can start driving towards, while you would have been doing some level of product strategy, but because you're also driving a portfolio of products at that level, you can start looking at strategy itself as a profession, probably closer and closer towards a CSO type of a role if the organization allows. I have also seen chief customer officer kind of roles. But that's a slight variation, because when you are in the product world, you are thinking about what do I build. But when you are in a chief customer officer type of a role, you are not just thinking of what do I build, you are also thinking of how do I make this consumable for my customer. It's a different lens. So I think that's another role which is an interesting one, because chief customer officers really look at what happens to your customer activity post deployment, right? And that requires a far thicker skin. But especially if you look at SaaS type of businesses, that role is super critical. They are driving your retention strategies. They are driving truly the overall ARR of your business. So I think that's one. CEO, I have seen so many. You have given examples. I think but again, I think for anybody to drive towards a CEO path, I've seen CPOs becoming CEOs, but I've also seen where when you start driving an entire ownership of product portfolio beyond a VP, beyond a director, group VPs, I think from there on you could take a more sales-driven approach. So you start driving more and more and more towards sales organization, and then take a path towards CEO. But if you're more anchored towards product marketing, then you could also have a path into marketing organization. So like I said, I think it leads to many, many, many paths beyond that. And general management comes so naturally for once you reach a certain level of products. But ultimately what drives is, have you owned something? Have you run something? Have you seen the ebb and fall and flow and high end? Have you gone through those cycles? Have you seen the entire product life cycle? I think if you have done that once, twice, thrice, any of these paths are available.
Yeah. No, I think I personally have seen some of these examples. And as you said, if you are working in an organization which is, let's say, in the 1 to 10 or a 10 to 100, where they're literally growing, right? So as a product manager, you are involved in those marketing initiatives. You are working closely with the sales team, right? So that automatically develops that muscle and gives you an opportunity, a window out there to see, is this something that you want to kind of do? Absolutely. Right? If you are in a organization which is constantly doing 0 to 1, constantly, because you are experimenting so much, you kind of develop a strategy you're constantly looking outside in for inspiration, for data points. Yeah. So you kind of constantly develop those muscles, transferable skills, which can be applied for these aspects, right?
Like I said, the one role I have seen, it's not easy for transitioning, is when you have to move from the product world to the deployment world, the post. Because it's not the most glamorous part of your role. I don't know if I can say that. It's such a critical part of the product delivery in this podcast, but it's not the most desirable, because you are constantly at it in the face of the customer who's saying this is not working, that's not working, right. And I expected something else, you gave me this. I think that experience drives a very different level of thinking and sense, honestly. And I've seen that transition is not easy. So if as a product manager, not only are you thinking about what can my product do, but how deployable, how installable, how serviceable my product is, I think that person would be a unicorn, honestly, because I have seen myself struggling to make that transition. And now when I look at it, I always look at the lens as, how easy is it for the customers to even use it, right? It may be the best thing that I've done in the world. So I think just taking the customers along that journey, if that becomes another thinking and mindset and skill that you can add, a lot of these become easier to achieve.
Yeah. Going in that route, see, one of the trends that I'm seeing, for example, that with more tooling coming in, with more automation coming in, a lot of product teams are going very leaner, right? If I have to quote, for example, one of the other spectrum is when the Airbnb CEO said that, they are doing away with the product management roles. They are kind of bubbling up designers to be as empowered as product people. So we are seeing a lot of organization. I don't recall which is this company name, but looks like it's a AI first company, and all they have is tech people. They don't have any product managers, right? So we are seeing some new ways of working. We are seeing some new evolutions. So with so much of technology further coming in the day-to-day of work, another thought, a wave of thought that I'm kind of hearing from people is that going forward, we will see more of these CPO roles and the CTO roles probably coming under one person or under one ambit, right? So what would be do you think people who come with technology background in the product role will have a edge over others? Do you also see this kind of trend looking at across the organizations?
To think about it, because yes, I've seen, I don't know if it's a trend, like the CPTO or CTPO. Yeah. So again, it's a change. Some
I think whatever the
CPTO, some of them say make it CTPO. That shows where the organization is headed. So I've seen roles like that definitely emerge. When I look back at the commonality of some of those organizations who have done that, I see that as a combination of the person who's taking on the role, who's generally coming from a tech background, core tech background, but more importantly, that organization, is it driving a tech first strategy? I think that becomes a very, very important thing, and what stage of the life cycle they are in. So if they are in a, if they are in a, I would say in a growth stage, CTPO, CPTO do make sense till a certain scale, and then you kind of look at a divergence. So I wouldn't call it a trend. I still see it as one of the dimensions organizations look for to really bring synergy of tech and product. Now you raised another thing, which is existence of so-called product management.
Is there really an existential crisis?
Okay. So if you really look back on all the hype that's going on today, I don't know if it's only product management. The entire tech industry is talking about being reimagined, reinvented, rethought. So when you look at from that canvas, it's not just product management. I think the day-to-day, we do development, core coding, we do testing, we do support. I think every profession is going to go through some reimagining. So it's not just product management. Now, when you break it down, there are certain fundamental aspects of product management which somebody has to do. It's not automatable, which is how do you take decisions. And today, a lot of decisions are probably subjectively done. I think that is where a lot of this technology will help bringing in objectivity. So, are you taking decisions based on competitor, market insights, technology, and your business value? We're doing all of that, but today, when some of the best product managers do it with a sense and intuition they build over time. And that's something, maybe that cycle can be accelerated and sped up by having a lot of that information coming to you in a much, much easier way. But again, it's information. Insights have to come from you. Some could argue that you have enough summarization and recommendation coming in from the technologies that they could even give you an insight. I think that's debatable, right? Because for me, the inciting process, the discovery plus inciting process, I think is where the true secret sauce of a good product manager is. So look at product ops. I think that's that part of product management, I think, can have a lot of influence by technology, because a lot of technology and a lot of product solutions out there could really help automate a lot of that steps. Now, rigor of execution once you drive a roadmap, and how do you drive towards your OKRs, and how do you drive the engineering execution. I think that is where, again, technology could have a lot of influence and impact. So if you really look at it, if you draw the value chain of today, what all product managers have to do, I see it in a way that it will be reimagined. A lot of activities which drive, which are data based, would be highly impacted, hopefully in a positive way. And second is a lot of activities which require day-to-day rigor, I think could be highly influenced by technology. But the true discovery, relationship building with your customer, with your market, with your analysts, and with your sales team and with your engineering team, I think that will still continue to remain at the heart of it. So I would say the next generation product managers to start thinking of all of these as yet another set of tools that they have in their hand, and look for how do I drive the value. So value conversation will always remain. And some of this is something which I am seeing in my own organization, right? Because Planview is into core product building, and we have tools and technologies that we're building for product managers. And I see when we start working towards, and a lot of organizations going through this whole transformation into product operating model.
Right.
So, and building AI-led transformations. So I think I do see the next generation that comes in is going to be a lot more assisted by data and AI, lot more focused on core decision making rather than the rote of let me groom backlog, let me do requirements. I definitely see that becoming as the next expectation. Will it take away all the jobs? Will it change the entire thing? Will I have only technologists? I think that's too far a stretch, but there could be some organizations who drive that because they may be building a brand new nothing but a technology. There may be in a 0 to 1 journey, all they need is technologists. But is the role dying? No. I think because there, my expectation, or rather my belief is that technologists are playing the role of product managers. Is the separation enough at that stage of a company? Maybe not. So that's how I see it, at least at this point.
Yeah, very, very beautifully captured, because I think while there is up to a certain extent that the tools can do, the automation can do, but there is this whole human element of relationship, conviction, intuition, which comes over a period of time, and by talking to people, that's the human element, or the high-touch human point that I would say needs to, I would say, extract the best out of the technology, but then helps them to take the product to a different notch by being great at your work, at your craft.
Yeah, craft is the right word, right? So clearly, I think you're crafting a solution. So do you have the desire to solve something? Do you have the desire to help somebody? Do you have the desire to grow business? I think some of those traits will drive you towards.
Correct.
And listen, I don't think any of us have a choice of today saying I will only do it this way and no other way. I think that somewhat a death knell. If we can't, we have to adapt and evolve every single time. And I think today there's so much that's available to adapt and evolve. I think the problem today is problem of plenty. Not the other way around. Earlier we used to be scarce, and then we used to look at one and then adapt our styles. I think now we have a choice of plenty. Right. So again, it comes down to how do you choose the best thing for you and for the role that you're in.
Absolutely. And I think the winners would be the one who would leverage on these options, and and to be able to do it fast, quickly, and embrace the change.
It's not only about fast and quickly. I have a slight philosophical difference on that opinion. I think fast is relative. So as soon as we start talking of product, you generally are talking of long-lasting value. So the difference of truly building high-quality, long-lasting versus for the sake of running fail fast, what do you do? I think it has to be a very important, delicate balance, because I have seen folks run towards a fail fast so fast because they're like, oh, now I have the freedom to, experiment, fail fast, experiment, fail fast. But again, you're building a business. You're building something which stands the test of time, even though the horizon is coming down. But I think the balance has to be always between long-lasting and quality, and what you need to fail fast so that you're constantly adapting to the market behavior. So I would always put that.
No, I think that balance is very important, especially as you said, you are building something to solve a customer's problem. You need to put that thought process and not rush. And in fact, I would say if it's a mature market, you don't want to kind of take a really in the interest of saying learn fast, and you don't want to put something really crappy, which your customer would not use.
That's true. That is true.
Right? Yeah.
I think that the balance is if we can be constantly aligned with the customer. Again, not just saying yes to what customer asks, because customer also, who is customer? Customer is not some alien entity. They're also people like us, human beings working in organizations. They have their own journey to go through. So which means that how can we bring the customers along the journey, go together, and that has to be a joint discovery process. So I think that's one more myth, right? So if we can be aligned with the customer, not in a unidirectional way, it has to be a bidirectional way, where you are coaching the customer to do certain things and customer is coaching you on what is really needed in the market. If you can do that, I think that's where you will get both the quality, the long-lastingness, plus the faster time to market.
Yes, sounds like a perfect tango.
Not at all easy, by the way. Not at all easy.
Yeah. I remember very recently somebody saying that they had attended my training, and he said that after attending those 3 days training, I'm now, and this guy was a data scientist. He said, I've started to appreciate my product managers so much more.
Exactly.
Because I didn't know they were working on so many other things. Like, it's like, you see the duck on the calm, but you don't know what is it peddling just below the water. So it's exactly like that. No, this is very, very interesting. So another question that I would have is that a lot of mid-career PMs, right, senior PMs, principal PMs, they sometimes feel stuck at their job, right? So a lot of time the questions that I get is that how do I stand out from my peers? How do I move on to my next role, like a director role? How do I grow there? Any tips or any frameworks that you recommend for that?
I fully empathize with that situation, first of all, because it's not easy. Comes down to three things, and I will probably start from the bottom. Skills. Second is perception that you have built in your organization about you, whether knowingly or unknowingly, which you can call it as brand, etc. I'm not trying to use big words, but really perception. The third is your own mental will. So skills, I think there is a lot of things that we could do, and every elevation requires a different level of negotiation, different level of influencing skills. So there are things around skills which we can talk about based on the levels that they are in. I think the harder ones are the work that you have to do on your own self, which we will touch upon. We did speak about it in the past section, but perception. So I want to touch upon that because we haven't spoken about it at all. Any organization, any role, you stay for a long time. I myself have gone through that journey. You build a certain perception about yourself, like I said, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, and that drives a lot of opportunities or the lack thereof. So which means more than standing out amongst your peers, what does your management team, what does your team which is surrounding you, your peer community and your entire 360 community, what does that community think about you, your ability, your capability, unfortunately or fortunately drives towards what opportunities come to you. Okay? So then, let's say the worst case, you do not have the perception that people have for you that you can grow to the next level. So can you wait around? No. That is where I think if a pull is not happening, we have to push. So which is where can you look up what are the next set of opportunities out there, not waiting for others. And start looking at role modeling those opportunities, which means if you have people who are already performing that, what does it look like? Start building relationships, actively seek mentors inside, right? Be ready to be told no, but actively seek that, actively seek feedback and take the feedback in a non-defensive mode and understand what is noise and what is actually workable, which is very, very hard because when you're in a system for 16, 17, 18 years, you're set in your pathways. And human nervous system, as we age, neural pathways start getting set. So how do you keep building new neural pathways? You have to be able to learn. And at that, learning is not just about skills. The learning is also about your own self. You are also changing and growing without even you knowing. So, and the world perceives you in a certain way. I think that's such a big part of the work that we have to do, which is not just building relationship for the sake of relationship. Transactional relationships don't last beyond a certain point. So how do you build that sponsor network for yourself? And like I said, not everything you ask for will be given. But at the same time, are you at least building enough that the doors and windows are getting opened for you, right? And when you are not in the room, people who hold your back, I think, are you building that network for you? And if it's not in the same organization, are you open to start learning? There are ecosystems like NASCOM. There are communities out there. There is so much to learn. I think the one thing that I would suggest anybody who's especially stuck in the same organization not to do is be the frog in the well. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, just going out and interacting with the community of people opens your eyes so much. It kind of tells you where you stand truly. That's very good. that's an humbling experience, but also it's a very enlightening experience. And with that, I'll move to the will part of it, which is all of this, as you start exploring, tend to become overwhelming. And if that's where you're feeling, I think that's the first sign to say, are you ready for the next step? Because any next step expects you to do things which are unknown. Right. Whether you like it or not, you may think that your boss is doing something which you can always do. Always, all of us think of that, right? Like we think we're smarter than our parents, we're smarter than our bosses. But, but my point is, the first test for your own self, litmus test, is to think, before you say, I can do that, is, okay, with all these new things that are coming at me, do I feel confidence, or do I feel overconfidence, or do I feel underconfidence?
Yeah.
Start, it's that the step starts there. So I would say that's how I would bucket the 3 for any next level elevation. And then we can get to specifics of based on the role, skills, etc.
Yeah, beautifully summarized. And I just can't agree enough. For me, I think after I became, like a PM, pretty much every next job or every next promotion came with a bunch of doing all of these things. Every next job, in fact, came with a reference, right? Somebody whom I knew, with whom somebody I had worked. So it is very important to set up that perception and constantly, I would say, evaluate yourself, and both, as much as external motivations are important, internal motivations are even more important.
So true, so true. And before saying no for any opportunity, assess. Maybe you are ready. Maybe at the very least you can experiment with yourself.
Correct.
So I think both ways goes, right? One is inertia of your own.
Correct.
Or it could be overconfidence. I'm going through some of that in my teams where people are like, I am ready to be the CEO today type of a. So then how do you help them drive there?
Yeah.
But so I'm saying both ends of the spectrum are not a good idea.
Correct. Right.
But you're absolutely right. Self-evaluation without either rose-eyed lenses or being overly critical is super important, because you're going to get inputs from everybody in the world.
Right.
Seek inputs if nobody's telling you.
Correct.
But then ultimately you have to really take a...
Correct.
And then you have to take a leap of faith. Sometimes you take a leap of faith, doesn't work, learn from it. It hurts when it doesn't work. Believe me. It is. Humiliation is never easy.
Right.
Okay.
But take it in your stride, because the only way you can go is move forward.
Exactly.
Right? So, or you just stay still there.
And strengthen your ego. Don't make it too fragile.
Exactly. As much as that goes under again, you're thick-skinned.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I think this is just so full of nuggets, especially a lot of people who are looking to, grow in their career for PMs. So I'm super glad, that we could manage to touch upon all the questions that came my way. And thank you, Shalini, for kind of articulating it so well, and some very, very teachable point of views. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Love talking to you, Malti. It never felt like a podcast. But, I truly applaud people who are willing to go through this journey, because that's half the battle won. If you're made up that, I think all your subscribers who are looking to go through this journey, believe me, you're already won the half the battle, because you know that you want to go forward. So
yes.
With that, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Of course.